3 telepaths tried to read a human mind that day. Only one of them can still sleep with the lights off. Look, I have been working at the Collective's Neural Research Station Theta for approximately 14 cycles now, and I have seen some supremely confident beings walk through those airlock doors. Commander Velk? That guy redefined arrogance. He strutted into the observation deck that morning like he had just solved the universe's biggest mystery, which, to be fair, he thought he had. Gentle beings, Velk announced, spreading his forearms wide in that dramatic way he always did. Today, we make history. I am Junior Researcher Plix, by the way. Remember that name because I am the idiot who actually volunteered for this disaster. At the time, though, I was excited. We all were. The entire station was buzzing, literally buzzing, because half our crew communicates through vibration patterns when they get emotional. Our station orbited a nothing little moon called Heridax 7, perfectly neutral territory, perfectly boring, perfectly safe. Gray rock below, black space above, and us in the middle, poking around in people's heads for science. The Collective paid us obscene amounts of credits to study telepathic integration across species, figure out why some brains played nice with our abilities and others did not. Routine work, mostly. Boring work, usually. Until they brought her in. The human specimen arrived 30 minutes ago, Senior Telepath Cora said, her voice calm and measured like always. Cora was old, experienced, had probably scanned 10,000 minds in her career. She floated near the main viewport, her translucent form shimmering with that annoying serenity she always maintained. Stasis pod is functioning within normal parameters. Subject shows no signs of distress. Distress? Velk laughed, actually laughed, his mandibles clicking together in amusement. Why would it be distressed? It is unconscious, Cora, completely unaware, probably dreaming about. I do not know, whatever primitive things humans dream about, throwing rocks at prey animals or something. Technician Renz snorted from his station, his eye stalks wiggling with suppressed humor. I heard they still eat dead things, Commander. Like actual flesh from other creatures. Is that true? Oh, it is worse than that, Velk said, warming to his audience. They consume plant matter that actively tries to poison them. Capsaicin, ethanol, caffeine. They ingest toxins for fun, Renz, for recreational purposes. Everyone in the observation deck went quiet for a moment, processing that particular horror. That is disgusting, someone muttered from the back. That is humans, Velk replied, grinning with way too many teeth. Deathworlders, survivors of a planet that apparently spent 4 billion years trying to murder everything on it, and yet here we are, about to crack open one of their minds like a Tyrellian puzzle box. The Collective has been trying to establish telepathic contact with humans for 6 cycles now. 6 cycles of failure, of mental blocks, of psychics retiring early after brief encounters with human crew members. But we, my friends, we have what none of them had. He paused for effect, because Velk loved his dramatic pauses. We have time. We have a controlled environment, and we have her completely unconscious and helpless. I should have heard alarm bells right there. Really, I should have. But I was young, ambitious, and stupidly excited to be part of something big. Plus, Velk made it sound so reasonable, so scientific. We were not torturing anyone. We were researching. We were not violating rights. We had collective authorization. The human had been acquired through means that were probably legal in at least 3 or 4 systems. Bring up the visual feed, Velk ordered. The main holoscreen flickered to life, showing the interior of Containment Bay 7. There, suspended in a standard stasis pod, was the human. Maya Torres, according to the data file, female designation, approximately 32 rotations old by Earth reckoning, former military designation with the United Earth Defense Corps. She looked, and I hate admitting this, completely ordinary. Not scary, not particularly impressive, just small. Humans are small compared to most spacefaring species, you know? Fragile looking, with their soft skin and their ridiculous internal skeletons that break if you look at them wrong. She had dark hair, brownish skin tone, and a face that was currently peaceful in artificial sleep. That is what everyone is afraid of, Junior Technician Marv asked, tilting his head unit. That little thing? Do not let the size fool you, Cora warned, though even she sounded somewhat doubtful. Human neural architecture is densely packed, incredibly complex. Their brains process information in ways we still do not fully understand. Parallel processing, emotional overlay on logical thinking, something they call imagination that blurs the line between memory and fabrication. Which is exactly why we are going to study her, Velk interrupted, not wanting Cora to steal his thunder. The human mind is the last major telepathic blind spot in known space. Every species we have encountered, every single one has some level of mental accessibility. Even the crystalline intelligences of Sector 9 eventually opened up to us. But humans? Humans are locked vaults wrapped in chaos, wrapped in something that gives our best psychics migraines. He moved closer to the hollow screen, studying Maya's sleeping face with the intensity of a predator examining prey. Funny, that. Humans are supposed to be the predators. Tomorrow morning at 0600 station time we begin preliminary scans, Velk continued. Blix, you will handle initial surface contact, light touch, emotional reading, basic thought patterns. Cora, you supervise and monitor for any danger signs. Renz, you keep her vitals stable and be ready to sever the connection if anything goes wrong. And if something does go wrong, I asked, because even then, some tiny part of my brain was screaming warnings. Velk turned to me, and his expression was pure confidence mixed with just a hint of condescension. Plix, my nervous friend, what could possibly go wrong? She is unconscious, contained and completely at our mercy. We are the collective's finest telepathic researchers. We have scanned murderers, lunatics, hive minds and gestalt consciousnesses. We have touched minds so alien that they operated on mathematical principles instead of emotions. He gestured at the screen, at the small, sleeping human. You think one unconscious Deathworlder is going to be a problem? Spoiler alert. It was going to be a massive problem. But at that moment, standing in that observation deck, watching my commander practically vibrate with excitement, surrounded by colleagues who all believed we were about to achieve something groundbreaking, I pushed down my doubts. I ignored my instincts. I did what every good researcher does when faced with the unknown. I smiled, nodded, and said, "No, Commander. No problem at all." Cora caught my eye across the room, and for just a second I saw something flicker in her energy field. Concern, maybe. Or recognition. Like she knew I was lying to myself. But she said nothing, just turned back to the viewport and the gray moon below. The station hummed around us. Life support systems breathing, computers processing, and in Containment Bay 7, Maya Torres slept on. Peaceful, quiet, harmless. We had absolutely no idea what we were about to walk into. But we were going to find out soon enough. So, here is the thing about waking up a human from stasis. You are supposed to do it slowly, gradually, let their system adjust. We did not do that. Velk wanted her alert and confused, thought it would make the initial probe easier. Turns out Maya Torres did not do confused. The stasis pod hissed open at exactly 0600, vapor spilling out like some dramatic horror vid. I watched from the observation room as her eyes snapped open, not gradually, not with the groggy disorientation most species show, but instantly. Aware, tracking. She sat up, looked directly at the camera, and smiled. That is not normal, right? Renz asked, his eye stalks retracting slightly. Humans have exceptional situational awareness, Cora said softly. Prey instincts mixed with predator responses. She knows she is being watched. Maya stretched. Stretched like she had just woken from a pleasant nap instead of forced stasis, and examined her containment cell with what I can only describe as mild interest. White walls, force field door, basic amenities. She walked to the field barrier, placed her hand near it, testing without touching, then turned and sat on the provided bench. Then she waited. Is she not going to panic? I asked. Apparently not, Velk said, sounding slightly annoyed that his carefully planned psychological advantage had evaporated. No matter, Plix. Begin your probe. Light contact only. Emotional surface scan. Right? Okay. I could do this. I had done this hundreds of times before. I closed my primary eyes, opened my inner sense, and reached out toward the human's mind. The first touch was like sticking my consciousness into a storm. Human thoughts do not flow. They explode. They do not organize. They cascade. Maya's surface mind was a churning mass of observations, calculations, memories, and something else, something running underneath everything like a constant electrical current. I caught fragments. The cell dimensions, 3.7 meters by 4.2 meters. The camera positions, 3 visible, probably 2 hidden. The force field frequency, she was listening to it, actually listening to the hum and analyzing it, and beneath that, running like background noise, threat assessment, constant, never-ending threat assessment. Door, potential weapon. Bench, potential weapon. Her own body, definitely a weapon. Clicks. Cora's voice seemed distant. Report. She is. I am. There is a lot happening in there, I managed. Her mind is incredibly active, multiple thought streams running simultaneously. She is analyzing everything, planning, calculating escape routes, even though she has to know the cell is secure. Can you read her emotions? I pushed a little deeper, trying to find the emotional core that most species have. Found it. Wished I had not. Calm. She was completely, utterly calm. But underneath that calm was something coiled, waiting, like a spring compressed to its absolute limit. Fear. Yes, she had fear, but it was not overwhelming her. It was fueling her, sharpening her, making her more alert, not less. She is not afraid the way we understand fear, I said. She is using it. The fear is making her focused. Fascinating, Velk breathed. Push deeper, Plix. I want to know what she is thinking about us. Bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. My instinct screamed. I pushed anyway. Her thoughts about us were not complimentary. Abductors. Unknown hostiles. Technological advantage negated by overconfidence. She was reading us, analyzing our behavior through the cameras, noting Velk's body language, cataloging probable species traits. She had already identified Cora as the biggest threat based on how the rest of us deferred to her. And then somehow she knew I was in her head. Her thought patterns shifted, and suddenly I was not observing her mind, I was caught in it. She turned her internal attention on me like a spotlight, like a weapons lock, and I felt her consciousness push back against mine. Not violently, not aggressively, just aware, pushing, testing my limits. I yanked myself out of the connection so fast I physically stumbled in the observation room. She knew. I gasped. She knew I was there. Impossible, Velk said flatly. Humans are not telepathic. I am telling you, Commander. She felt me in her mind and she pushed back. Cora moved forward, her energy field rippling with concern. Plix, are you injured? No, just startled. I looked at the screen where Maya sat, still motionless, still calm, still smiling slightly. We should stop. We should really stop and reconsider this. Absolutely not, Velk snapped. Cora, join me. We are going in together. Plix, once we establish connection, you add your strength to ours. We are going past the surface this time. I want to see what is really in there. This was the moment I could have refused. But Velk was my commander, this was my assignment, and some stupid part of me still wanted to prove myself. Yes, Commander. Cora and Velk linked first, their telepathic signatures intertwining in that practiced way experienced psychics have. I felt them reach out together. A much stronger probe than my solo attempt. Maya's head tilted slightly in her cell, acknowledging the intrusion. We are in, Velk reported. Plix. Now. I joined the link and suddenly I was seeing through 3 perspectives at once, experiencing Maya's mind with the full weight of our combined abilities. Oh, ancestors preserve me. Her surface thoughts were chaos, but beneath them were layers. Memories stacked on memories, experiences compressed and cross-referenced, emotions tagged and filed, but never forgotten. The human brain does not delete anything. We realized with growing horror, it just buries things, and if you dig, if you push, it all comes back up. We pushed past her military training, past her adult memories, looking for something foundational, something to explain how human minds developed. We found Earth. The sounds hit us first. Humans live in constant noise. Wind, rain, thunder that cracks across skies, oceans that roar and crash and never stop moving, animal calls, thousands of species, all trying to be heard over each other, and underneath it all the rumble of a planet that is still geologically active, still shifting, still dangerous. Then the smells, because human memory is tied to scent in ways our species cannot process. Cut grass, ocean salt, petrichor after rain, smoke from fires, blood, because yes, Blood has a smell they recognize. Food cooking, flowers blooming, decay and growth happening simultaneously. Too much, Cora whispered through the link. Too much sensory data. But we could not stop. Velk was pulling us deeper into Maya's childhood memories. A younger version of her, maybe 8 years old by human reckoning, standing outside during something called a thunderstorm. Lightning splitting the sky, thunder shaking the ground, rain falling so hard it hurt, and young Maya laughing, delighted by the violence of her own planet's weather. Another memory, her running from something in tall grass. Terror, pure terror, but also exhilaration. The thing chasing her was called a dog, apparently a companion animal, but her brain was processing it as a predator, because humans evolved running from predators, running toward prey, their entire species shaped by the understanding that everything either wants to eat you or you want to eat it. More memories, cascading faster. A hurricane that destroyed her childhood home, her family evacuating, water rising, wind tearing buildings apart. She was 12. She remembered being 12 and thinking that this was normal, this was just weather, this was life. Pull back, I said through the link. Velk, pull back now. Not yet, he growled. I see military service markers. I want to know what training does to a mind like this. He pushed us toward those memories and Maya's consciousness stirred again, more actively this time. I felt her awareness sliding around our presence like she was examining us, learning from the contact even as we tried to learn from her. The military memories were worse. Combat. Actual combat. Not simulations. Humans fighting other humans over resources, territory, ideology, things that civilized species negotiate. She had killed people, other members of her own species, and she carried those faces with her. Every single one, named them in her memory, honored them and hated herself for it, simultaneously. By the void, Cora breathed. They are still fighting each other. Even now, even after reaching space, they are still. A wall of emotions slammed into our link. Maya's anger, controlled but absolute, burning through the connection. She was done being examined. Done being patient. Out, Cora commanded. Everyone out, now. We pulled back together, severing the connection with all the grace of a panicked retreat. I opened my eyes to find Ren supporting me, Velk leaning against the console, and Cora's energy field flickering erratically. On the screen, Maya had not moved. Still sitting, still calm. But her smile was wider now. Well, Velk said after a long moment, his voice shaking slightly. That was informative. That was insane, I corrected. Her entire species is insane. That planet tried to kill them for millions of years, and they just adapted. They turned it into fuel. Every horrible thing that happened to them, they used it. We go deeper tomorrow, Velk said quietly. We need to understand this. I looked at him, at Cora, at Renz's worried expression. No, I said, we really do not. But of course we did anyway. Velk gave us exactly 6 hours to recover before he called the next session. 6 hours. I spent 4 of them trying to meditate away the lingering sensory overload from Earth's atmosphere. 1 hour filing a formal objection that he ignored completely. And the last hour staring at the ceiling, wondering why I had ever thought xenopsychology was a good career choice. This is a mistake, I said for the record as we assembled in the observation room again. Commander, we barely survived surface contact. A full neural mapping could cause permanent damage. Noted and dismissed, Velk replied, checking the telepathic amplifiers that Renz had set up overnight. Cora, you agree with me, correct? Cora was quiet for a long moment, her form dimmer than usual, tired. I agree, we need to understand. Whether we should is a different question. Not helpful, Velk muttered. On screen, Maya was doing something bizarre. Exercise, Renz called it, pushing her body up and down off the floor using just her arms, over and over, counting in her human language. 63, 64, 65. Her breathing was controlled, steady, and there was not a hint of strain in her expression. Why is she doing that? I asked. Maintaining physical capability, Cora observed. She has been captive for less than 1 planetary rotation, and she is already worried about muscle atrophy. Humans require constant physical maintenance or their bodies begin to deteriorate. That is horrifying. That is adaptation, Cora corrected. Their bodies are designed for constant use. Movement, struggle, effort. Stagnation equals death on a fundamental biological level. Maya finished her repetitions, stood and looked directly at the camera again. She said something in her language, 2 words, and smiled. Translation, Velk asked. Renz checked his console. Good morning. She knew, she absolutely knew we were watching, knew we were planning something, and she was greeting us. The audacity was almost impressive, would have been impressive if I was not terrified. Amplifiers are online, Renz reported, his eye stalks twitching nervously. Medical monitors are active. I have emergency neural severance protocols ready. Commander, I really must advise. Your advisement is noted. Velk cut him off. Cora, Plix, take your positions. We are going to map every layer of that mind, from surface consciousness down to base instinct. The collective needs this data. We formed a triangle around the amplification array, a telepathic focusing system that would boost our abilities tenfold. Dangerous under normal circumstances, potentially catastrophic with a human subject. But Velk was beyond caution now. He wanted answers, wanted glory, wanted to be the psychic who finally cracked the human enigma. Link on my mark, Velk said. 3, 2, 1, mark. Our minds connected first. The familiar sensation of consciousness merging, 3 becoming 1. Then we reached out together, amplified, strengthened and crashed into Maya's mind like a tidal wave. Except she was ready for us. Her surface thoughts parted like a door opening, welcoming us in, and that should have been our first warning. Minds do not open willingly to invasion. They resist, they defend. Maya did neither. She let us in. We plunged past the surface, past the chaotic thought patterns, past the immediate calculations and observations, down into the deeper structures of memory and instinct. This was where species kept their fundamental programming, the basic survival codes written into consciousness before learning and experience took over. Human survival instinct is not like other species. Most beings have simple directives: flee from danger, seek food, reproduce. Humans have something more complex, more aggressive, a constant threat assessment matrix that never ever turns off. We experienced it through Maya's awareness. Every sound categorized: footstep, mechanical hum, air circulation. Every shadow analyzed: natural, artificial potential threat. Every scent processed: recycled station air, cleaning chemicals, our own alien biology markers, seeping through the containment field. Her brain was processing hundreds of data points per second, running probability scenarios, calculating survival odds, planning contingencies. And beneath that, deeper still, the predator awareness. Humans are not apex predators on their world. Not really, but they remember being prey. They remember being hunted. And somewhere in their evolution they decided to become the hunters instead, climbed their way up the food chain through stubbornness and violence and refusal to accept their place. This is incredible, Velk breathed through our link. Do you see it? Do you see how their minds work? Constant vigilance, constant preparation for violence. No wonder they dominate their planet. We should pull back, Cora warned. This level of sustained alertness, it is not natural. It is. Maya's memories surged forward, overwhelming Cora's caution. We saw her childhood again, but clearer this time, more complete. Age 6, watching her home burn in something called a wildfire. Age 9, hiding in a basement while winds from a tornado tore apart her neighborhood. Age 11, dragging her younger brother from floodwaters while adults panicked around her. Every disaster, every close call filed away, learned from, survived. They grow up in hell, I whispered through the link. Their entire childhood is surviving one catastrophe after another. Not catastrophes, Cora corrected, her horror bleeding through. Weather. Normal planetary weather. This is just their environment. The memories shifted. Adolescence now. Maya at 15, learning to fight because her world was dangerous and being helpless was not an option. Maya at 17, watching someone die in an accident, powerless to help, adding that face to her collection of losses. Maya at 20, enlisting in military service because the wars never stopped and someone had to fight them. Her military training opened before us like a wound. Methodical desensitization to violence, teaching a mind to function under impossible stress, drilling responses until they became automatic. Kill or be killed, simplified into muscle memory. She had been trained to break other humans, to survive when everything wanted her dead, to keep fighting when her body screamed to stop. And the faces. Oh, ancestors, the faces of people she had killed. 23 humans. She counted them, named them when she could, carried their weight, not with guilt exactly, not with shame, but with acknowledgement. She had ended lives and she remembered it was necessary and terrible and she would do it again if required. Pull back, I said urgently. Velk, we have enough data. Pull back now. But Velk pushed deeper, searching for something, some weakness maybe, some explanation for how a species this damaged could function. We fell through layers of memory, through loss and pain and anger, so much anger, controlled but never gone. Friends dead in combat, relationships broken by trauma. A mother who died while Maya was off-world, unable to say goodbye. Every human loss carried forever, nothing forgotten, nothing forgiven, especially not herself. They live in constant fear, Cora said, understanding dawning. Not panic, not terror, but low-grade fear running in the background of every moment. Fear of death, fear of loss, fear of failure. It never stops. It fuels them, Velk countered. Can you imagine? Weaponizing your own trauma, using pain as motivation, turning every horrible experience into a reason to keep fighting. And that is when Maya's consciousness moved. Up until this moment we had been the active participants, diving through her memories while she remained passive, observed, analyzed. But now she was done observing. Her awareness wrapped around our linked consciousness like a fist closing. What? What is she doing? I stammered. She is. Oh no. She is pulling us in, Cora said, her mental voice rising in pitch. Velk, sever the connection. She is reversing the probe. I cannot, Velk replied, and for the first time I heard fear in his thoughts. She has us locked. How is she doing this? Humans are not telepathic. Maya's thoughts crashed over us, clear and deliberate and absolutely controlled. You wanted to see inside my head? Fine. Let me show you what a human mind really contains. Rens. Cora screamed aloud. Sever the connection now. I am trying, Rens shouted back, his voice distant, muffled. The amplifiers are not responding. She is somehow feeding power back through the link. I cannot shut it down. Maya's presence in the connection grew stronger, clearer, and we realized with dawning horror that she had been awake during yesterday's probe too. Aware, conscious, she had felt us rummaging through her thoughts, and she had let us, learning how our telepathy worked, figuring out the mechanism, waiting for us to go deeper, waiting for us to use the amplifiers. Her thoughts were sharp, clear, furious. You think pain is unique to your experience? You think suffering is something that happens to other beings? Let me educate you. No, I whimpered. Please, we are sorry, we will let you go, we will. Too late for that, she thought, and opened her mind completely. Not to share, to attack. Every terrible thing Maya Torres had experienced, every moment of agony, every loss, every trauma, every nightmare, came flooding through the telepathic link. Not as memories anymore, as experiences, raw, unfiltered, overwhelming. We were not observing her pain now. We were feeling it. All of it. At once. And she was just getting started. Pain is relative. Or so I thought before Maya Torres taught me otherwise. Human pain receptors are a nightmare of evolutionary overkill. They feel everything, categorize everything, remember everything. And Maya forced us to experience them at full intensity through the telepathic link. She started with physical pain, simple, direct, the feeling of a bone breaking, her left arm at age 13, compound fracture, jagged edges grinding together. We felt it, actually felt it. Vilk screamed aloud in the observation room and I would have joined him except I could not remember how to control my own body anymore. Then burns. Second degree across her shoulder from a malfunctioning plasma rifle during training. The nerves shrieking, skin bubbling. The smell, oh ancestors. The smell of her own flesh cooking. Humans have scent memory too, and she made sure we experienced that completely. Blade wounds, bullet wounds, shrapnel tearing through muscle. Every injury she had survived, and she had survived so many, played through our consciousness in vivid, agonizing detail. Not memories, not simulations. The link made them real, made our minds interpret the signals as actual damage happening right now. Cora's voice was barely recognizable, shredded by screaming. Renz, please, I am trying, Ren sobbed somewhere in the real world. The amplifiers are overloading. I cannot shut them down without killing you. But this is just my pain. Maya's thoughts cut through our agony, cold and sharp. Let me show you what humans do to each other. War memories crashed over us. Not her wars, all wars, because she had studied them, humanity's entire blood-soaked history downloaded into her consciousness during her military education. We experienced trenches filled with poison gas, soldiers drowning in their own lungs, nuclear fire vaporizing cities, millions dead in seconds, children starving in sieges, civilians executed for ideology, genocide after genocide after genocide, all committed by humans against humans, and Maya had learned about every single one. This is what my species does when we are angry, she informed us. This is what we are capable of. The plague years next, because of course Earth tried to kill them with disease too, billions dead from viruses, bacteria, parasites. Maya showed us the Black Death, Spanish flu, COVID-19 hemorrhagic fevers that liquefied organs. She showed us what it felt like to die slowly, body failing system by system, while human medicine was still too primitive to help. Stop, I begged. Please stop. We understand. You understand nothing, Maya snarled through the link. You wanted to map a human mind? This is what we contain. This is what we live with. Personal grief hit us next, somehow worse than the physical pain. Maya's mother dying of cancer, wasting away over months while Maya was stationed 3 systems away. The guilt of not being there, the rage at the universe, the helplessness. We felt her at the funeral, looking at the body, trying to reconcile the corpse with the person who had raised her. Friends dead in combat, their last moments played in excruciating detail. Jackson, bleeding out from gut wounds, taking 14 minutes to die while Maya held pressure on injuries she knew were fatal. Yuki, killed instantly by sniper fire, there 1 second, gone the next, no goodbyes. Chen, trapped in a burning vehicle screaming for help that could not reach him in time. Every loss, every failure, every moment of powerlessness. Velk, Cora gasped through our link. Velk, we have to break free, coordinate, push together. But Velk was not responding anymore. His consciousness fracturing under the assault. Maya was feeding him every predator humanity had ever feared. Saber-toothed cats stalking through grass, bears capable of tearing bodies apart, sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes and spiders and insects. Then the human predators, serial killers, torturers, the monsters that even humans feared. She showed Cora something different, something targeted. The isolation of command, the weight of sending others to die, the impossible choices with no right answers. Every decision Maya had made that cost lives, replayed with all the anguish attached. Cora, experienced and ancient, crumbled under the sheer volume of accumulated trauma. I got Earth itself. The planet in all its terrible glory. Earthquakes splitting cities, tsunamis erasing coastlines, volcanoes burying civilizations, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, wildfires, temperature extremes that would kill most species in minutes, gravity that crushed, atmosphere that corroded, radiation from their own sun trying to burn them. And humanity's response was not to leave, not to hide, but to adapt, to thrive, to look at a planet actively trying to murder them and say, not today. Time lost meaning in the link, seconds felt like hours, moments stretched into eternities. Maya was feeding us compressed trauma, decades of human suffering experienced in heartbeats. Our minds were not designed for this, could not process this, were literally breaking under the strain. Somewhere far away, alarms were screaming. Renz was shouting about neural feedback, about brain damage, about permanent trauma. Security teams were breaching the observation room. Finally, mercifully, the amplifiers exploded. The connection severed like a snapping cable, violent and sudden. I came back to my body to find myself on the floor, Ishore streaming from my sensory organs, my entire form shaking. Velk was collapsed against the wall, mandibles clicking spasmodically, eyes unfocused. Cora's energy field was flickering erratically, dim and unstable, barely holding form. Medical teams rushed in, scanning us, shouting technical jargon. I could not process. My mind was still echoing with Maya's pain, her anger, her grief. I could not separate my thoughts from hers, could not remember which memories were mine. On the monitor, Maya stood in her cell, breathing hard but controlled. She looked at the camera one last time and spoke in flawless collective standard, a language she should not have known. "You are not ready for humanity. Stay away from Earth. Stay away from us." Then she walked to the force field door, which was flickering, dying, power redirected to the medical emergency in the observation room. She stepped through, calm and purposeful. Alarms blared throughout the station. Security teams scrambled. But Maya had studied the layout during her captivity, planned her route, timed everything perfectly. The last camera feed showed her entering Shuttle Bay 3, overriding the launch protocols with codes she had pulled from our minds during the link, and departing in a stolen reconnaissance craft. Gone. And we were left there, broken, bleeding, screaming when we could remember how. The human had won. We just did not understand yet how completely. 3 weeks later, I still cannot close my eyes without seeing Jackson die. Not my memory, hers, but my brain does not care about that distinction anymore. The telepathic link burned Maya's experiences into my consciousness so deeply that I cannot tell where she ends and I begin. I know the smell of burning flesh, the sound of bones breaking, the specific flavor of grief when you bury someone you love. I have never experienced any of those things personally, but I remember them anyway. Patient exhibits severe post-traumatic responses to telepathic contact, my medical file reads. Dr. Harveen is very professional when she updates it during our daily sessions. Recommends indefinite suspension of psychic abilities. Prognosis for recovery uncertain. Uncertain, that is a kind way of saying broken. I tried using my telepathy once, 4 days after the incident, just a light surface scan of Harveen to prove I could still do it. The moment I opened my inner sense, I felt phantom pain lance through my consciousness, Maya's pain, human pain, and I collapsed screaming. I have not tried since. Velk is worse. Commander Velk, who strutted into that observation deck so confident, so arrogant, so certain he could crack the human enigma. He resigned his commission the day he was released from medical care, filed his official report, and disappeared into whatever retirement looks like for disgraced telepaths. But before he left, he sent a message to every collective research station, every military outpost, every diplomatic vessel, one sentence, repeated obsessively. Do not engage human minds under any circumstances. The collective board ignored him initially, thought he was suffering from temporary trauma-induced paranoia. Then they tried to debrief him, demanded details, wanted to understand what went wrong so they could develop better protocols. That interrogation lasted exactly 12 minutes before Velk started screaming about predators and pain and Earth's endless violence. They sedated him, filed the report as unreliable testimony and moved on. Until they talked to Cora. Senior telepath Cora, ancient and experienced, who had touched thousands of minds across hundreds of species without permanent damage. She corroborated everything Velk said, calmly and precisely, with the kind of detail that makes officials nervous. Then she quit too. Not retired, quit, walked away from a career spanning decades, moved to an isolated research facility on the edge of collective space, and started studying Earth with the intensity of someone trying to solve an existential threat. I visit her sometimes when the nightmares get too bad and I need to talk to someone who understands. Her facility is small, cramped, filled with human cultural data, historical records, biological surveys. She has been consuming everything available about humanity, trying to contextualize what we experienced. They are remarkable, she told me last week, her energy field dim but stable, truly remarkable. Do you know what the average human lifespan was 500 years ago? Barely 70 rotations, disease, violence, accidents, their own planet, and they kept going anyway. Kept building, kept creating, kept hoping. They are terrifying, I corrected. That too, she agreed. But Plix, here is what keeps me awake. Maya Torres was a soldier, yes. Experienced combat, lost friends, suffered trauma. But by human standards, she was ordinary, functional. They have classifications for trauma severity, and hers would be considered moderate. I stared at her. Moderate? We nearly died from moderate human trauma. We nearly died from one human's accumulated experiences, Cora said quietly. Now imagine a human who has suffered more. Imagine they're veterans with decades of combat. They're survivors of genocide, slavery, systematic oppression. They're victims of abuse who somehow continue living afterward. I could not imagine it. My mind literally refused to process the concept. The collective board needs to understand, Korak continued. Humans are not just physically dangerous, their minds are weapons. Evolved weapons, honed by millions of years of surviving the unsurvivable. Any species that develops telepathic contact with them will face what we faced. She pulled up a file on her display, station records from the day Maya escaped. Security footage showed her methodically disabling our communications array, erasing her biological samples from medical storage, wiping the detailed scans we had made of her neural patterns, thorough, professional, efficient. Then, just before she launched, she left a message in our central computer. Simple, direct, in collective standard. You are not the first species to try this. You will not be the last. But understand, every time you force your way into a human mind, you are walking into a weapons cache with the safety protocols disabled. We did not choose to be this way. Earth made us this way, and we will defend our consciousness as fiercely as we defend our bodies. Stay away from our minds. This is your only warning. The collective board finally held their formal inquiry 2 days ago. Velk is summoned to testify, despite his retirement, despite his obvious psychological damage. They needed to know if humans represented a telepathic threat to collective security. I watched the proceedings remotely, could not bear to be in the same room with that many minds after what happened. Commander Velk, the board chair said, her tone skeptical. You are asking this assembly to believe that one unconscious human female overpowered 3 trained telepaths, caused permanent psychological damage, and escaped a high-security research station. Does that assessment seem reasonable to you? Velk looked at her, and I saw something in his expression that made me deeply sad. Fear, permanent and unshakable. Chair, with respect, you are asking the wrong question, he said quietly. The issue is not whether it seems reasonable. The issue is that it happened, and worse, we got lucky. Lucky? Maya Torres was a standard infantry soldier, Velk explained. Competent, experienced, but not exceptional by human military standards. She had no specialized psychological training, no advanced combat conditioning, no exposure to their most traumatic conflicts. She was, by Earth's measure, remarkably stable and well-adjusted. He leaned forward, and his voice dropped. We encountered a psychologically healthy human, and it nearly destroyed us. Now imagine what would happen if we tried to scan someone who was not healthy, someone broken by their experiences, someone with nothing left to lose. The board was silent. Or worse, Velk continued. Imagine encountering a human who has been specifically trained to weaponize their consciousness, because I promise you, the moment humanity learns what we tried to do, they will start developing that training. They will create telepathic countermeasures. They will turn their trauma into ammunition. That seems unnecessarily alarmist, another board member objected. You did not feel what I felt, Velk said simply. You were not in that link. You do not wake up screaming because your mind thinks it is bleeding out in a trench. You do not flinch at shadows because some part of you remembers being hunted by predators that went extinct millennia before you were born. He stood, slowly, painfully. Humanity climbed to the top of their food chain by refusing to quit, by enduring the unendurable, by weaponizing their own suffering. They are survivors in the truest, most terrifying sense, and we are not equipped to handle that. The board issued their directive 6 hours later. All collective vessels are to maintain minimum contact protocols with human ships. No telepathic scanning under any circumstances. No involuntary detainment of human personnel. Violations will result in immediate court-martial and permanent revocation of psychic privileges. I heard through unofficial channels that 3 other species filed similar warnings within days of our incident. Apparently we were not the only ones who tried to read a human mind. We were just the only ones who survived intact enough to report it. Human ships pass through collective space now, and we give them room. Wide berths, minimal communication, no questions about their cargo or destination. They nod politely, follow traffic protocols, and move on. And we let them. Because now we know what is inside those heads, what memories they carry, what pain they live with daily and call normal. We know what happens when you corner a species that spent millions of years learning that surrender equals death. Maya Torres is out there somewhere, probably back on Earth, probably telling her story to other humans, warning them or maybe training them, teaching them how to defend against telepathic intrusion. And honestly, I hope she does, because the next species that tries to force their way into a human mind deserves exactly what they get. I learned my lesson. The hard way. The human way. And I am never, ever forgetting it.